in Spanish. And so it was the same word, conozco, that you know him initially in a point in time, and you understand, which was know him in an ongoing way. Okay? So there we are. We're with God right now, and he's saying that Lazarus, he needs to be where he is, and we need to wait. And so illness, what's he saying? He's saying illness, hardship, that poverty, that deformity, all these kinds of things. They're for good. I'm slowing down because we have to think about that. Illness, poverty, deformity. You lose your house, your car, you get in a wreck and your car is totaled. You lose your job, somebody dies, and on and on. And God says, it's going to be okay. In me, you're going to be all right. And I'll get you through. And it'll be okay. But we say, I don't know. I don't understand that. Sometimes we even go to this. If I were God, I would have handled it this way or that way. And then we come to our senses sometimes. We say, okay, I'm not God. That's right. You know, this is something that's comforted me over the years. That God is all-powerful, correct? Right? He's omnipotent. He's all-knowing, right? Omniscient. And he is ever-present everywhere. Right? Omnipresent. So that has comforted me. How? Because a God that loves me with an infinite love, with an agape love, that loves me more than anybody could love me, loves me more than I love, let's say an infant that dies, loves me more than anybody can love, and that, secondly, has the power to do something about it, tells me that since he didn't change it to the way I think it's right, the way it's going is better than I could figure out, because he's all-knowing, and he loves with an infinite love. And so I can trust him in what I don't understand, knowing that he can do and he will do what he needs to do so that it is perfect. It is the way it needs to be. I can trust him with that. But that's hard to say even though, in that moment. Well, I know of somebody that does know him, knows Jesus, and I know of somebody that I think understands this pretty well. And it's somebody that you're going to become more and more familiar with. So I'm going to show you about 3.5 minutes of a video.
What makes someone extraordinary? Their abilities? Their talents? Or simply, their smile? When I first met Nick Vujicic, I knew I had just encountered someone extraordinary. From the moment he began to share his amazing story with me, I witnessed firsthand how God is using a man with no arms and no legs to be God's hands and his feet.
My dad was saying that he was, his head was next to my mum's head as I was being born, and he saw my shoulder, and he just went pale. He was hoping my mum didn't see me because he saw that I had no right arm. And my dad had to leave the room, and he couldn't believe what he saw, and the doctor came in, and my dad said, "My son, he has no right arm." And he says, "No, your son has no arms or legs." And he said he nearly fell on the floor. He couldn't believe it. And the whole church was mourning, like, why would God let the pastor's son be born that way? And my mum, at first, she didn't want to hold me. She didn't want to, breastfeed me and all that. She just felt very uncomfortable for the first 4 months. And it took them quite a while before they could trust in God that he didn't make a mistake, that he didn't forget them or me.
Nick's parents gave their fear and even disappointment in their son's disability over to the Lord. They chose to trust God and his promise that he had a plan and purpose, a hope and a future for their son. But as the years passed, Nick, on the other hand, had many challenges trusting in a God that he felt gave him less.
I challenged God. I said, "God, I know that I'm a sinner. I know then I won't probably have peace until you're in my heart, but I will not let you in my heart until you answer me, why? Why did you take my arms and legs? Why didn't you give me what everybody else has? And I said, God, until you answer me that question, I will not serve you. And so I wanted to end it. If God wasn't going to end my pain, I was going to end it myself. So at age 8, I tried to drown myself in a bathtub of 4 inches of water. I told my mum and dad, I'm just going to relax in the bathtub. Can you put me in the bathtub? And yeah, I turned over a couple times to see if I could do it. I couldn't do it. The thought that stopped me from going through with it was the love for my parents. Because I love them so much, and all they did was love me. And I thought to myself, if I actually went through with this, I pictured my funeral, I pictured my parents, and all I saw was guilt on their shoulders, that they couldn't have done more.
That would be the last time Nick would attempt suicide, but it wouldn't be the last time he would come face to face with those deep issues that made him want to end the pain. Then one day, Nick's mother had him read an article about a severely disabled man, and that man's story made a huge impact on Nick.
I have a choice to either be angry at God for what I don't have or be thankful for what I do have. And my mom, she said, Nick, God's going to use you. I don't know how, I don't know when, but God's going to use you. And those seeds started penetrating in my heart. And that's when I started seeing that there is no point in being complete on the outside when you're broken on the inside. And I found out that God can heal you without changing a circumstance. I gave my life to Jesus Christ when I read John 9 at age 15, where a man was coming through a village, and a man, this blind man from birth, Jesus saw him. People said, why was this man born that way? Jesus said, it was done so that the works of God may be revealed through him. And in 2 Timothy 3 verse 16, it says, all scripture is God-breathed. And I believe God breathed in me life and faith. This faith came over me, this peace came over me, and I felt like God answered my question.
And what was the question and what was the answer?
The question was, why? Why did you make me this way? And the answer was, do you trust me? That's the question. And when you say yes to that question, nothing else matters.
Well, what's the question? Why? What's the answer? Do you trust me? Do you trust me? First of all, Mike, I think there's a lot of people that would say, that's no answer at all. Do you see the wisdom in that? We don't want an answer, really. We want the answer we want. That's what we want, right? Just give me the answer I want and the results I want. I just want you to change things and make them the way I want them to be. That's the answer I want. Now, why did you do this? Which is to say, now fix it. And God said, do you trust me? Can you go there with heartache and hurt in your life? The things that are just incredibly difficult. Can you go there and say, God, why? Why did you do this? And he says, do you trust me? Do you trust me? Because until we can say yes, then he can't explain anything to us. And it may be that the area in our life that we need to grow the most is trusting God. And say, oh, in that depth, I trust you, God. That's all good. That's what you desired, and that's what you knew was best. I trust you. Go there. Well, that's what Jesus was telling his disciples. He said, what was happening in Lazarus' life, that's for God's Son to be glorified. It's okay. All week, that answer was kind of haunting me. Do you trust me? And then so I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about for my life, do I trust him? And then I started reading and studying, and then when I see it in this video, and I was doing another study with some guys I get together with, and then it was all about trust and trusting God. And then I did this other study, and it was about trust, and I opened up Jesus Calling app on my phone, and then reading for the day, and I was reading, and it said, do you trust me? I go, I don't know. Why is this jumping up everywhere? I know why. Because I don't know about you, but I'm slow. I'm slow of understanding. And I think God has to say, do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust me?